Valerie, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, good evening, Katie. How are you doing?
I'm good. Nice to talk to you. I haven't talked to you in quite a while. You know, Bob Schieffer was just saying what a good job President Obama did tonight. I can't sort of believe that you might disagree with that statement. How did you think he fared?
Well, I thought he fared very well. No, in all seriousness, Katie, I thought he had a terrific evening. He always enjoys the opportunity to speak directly to the American people, to lay out his plan, his strategy, his very ambitious agenda to meet the challenging times that we're in. So I thought it was a very productive night, an informative night for the American people.
With all due respect to Jane Austen, it seemed to be a combination of pride and patience. You know, he kind of walks that fine line, feeling good about some of the things they put forward, but once again, as he has repeatedly done, urging the American people to be patient. Is that something that he really drives home when it comes to meetings with staff members such as yourself?
Well, he tells us to be aggressive and to be ambitious, and he has not so much patience for us. But I think the point he was trying to make tonight is that, yes, we've made a lot of progress, but we still have a long way to go. And he's never going to be satisfied. Every day he's going to wake up and he's going to fight hard on behalf of the American people. And even though we have made an extraordinary amount of progress in a relatively short time, there's still challenges ahead, and he wants to be realistic. He wants to be transparent and open and clear and honest with the American people, and that's what tonight was really all about.
You really get the sense, Valerie, that he has very mixed feelings. In fact, he finds it slightly distasteful that he's been put in a position that he has to get involved in the private sector to the extent that he's had to do in terms of the financial industry, the banks, and the auto industry as well. Do you think he's just very anxious to get them healthy again and then to get the hell out of Dodge, if you will?
Well, I think he said almost as much this evening, which is that we want to be a short-term shareholder. He understands that right now we're in extraordinary times, and in extraordinary times, leaders take extraordinary steps. For us to have the kind of ownership position we're going to have in the private sector is not something that he would want for government. As he said, he'd love to trim government. In fact, he's committed to cut the national deficit, the federal deficit, in half within his first term. So yes, he does want to get out of the business of running private corporations, but he also understands that in order for our economy to be healthy, Katie, we have to have a strong banking industry. We need to have an automotive industry that is functioning. We need to be able to get our economy going again. And at times like that, we want a president who's willing to step up to the plate and do what's necessary.
I thought it was interesting, too, Valerie, that he talked about the White House and the presidency being simply one power center in the country, and that he didn't have a button that could make the banks do what he wanted them to do, or didn't have a button to push that would make Congress fall in line. Has it been frustrating for him, especially given in a time of crisis, that some of these other power centers haven't fallen in line faster?
No, I wouldn't call it frustrating. I think that President Obama came into office having come from the Senate. He understands firsthand how challenging it is to work in Washington, but he came here resolved to just wake up every day and work as hard as he can, and emotions like frustration are really kind of irrelevant. He knows what the task at hand is, and he's prepared to do it, and he's just going to forge ahead and keep in mind the American people. I think what he does that gets him through the most challenging days is we go on the road, such as we did today. We were in St. Louis. Missouri is a state that we were in 2 days before the general election, going back and getting back in touch with the American people on a regular basis, seeing the challenges that they face. That's what gives him the fortitude and the strength and the courage to get up every day and fight on behalf of the American people.
You know, he talked an awful lot, Valerie, about torture during this press conference, and about waterboarding, and about how some of these enhanced interrogation techniques, if you will, corrode the character of the country. And the big question being, you know, even if it did save lives or protect the nation, could this information have been ascertained through other methods? I'm very confused. What is the administration's position about going forward with prosecutions of people who might have been involved in sort of okaying these enhanced interrogation methods?
What the president has said, and he's been really clear, Katie, on this point, so let me take this opportunity to drive it in even further. When he was in the campaign and when he took office, he said, we are not going to use those kind of enhanced interrogation techniques. Number one, we believe we can get the information another way. Number two, we believe that it actually makes our country less safe because people are using those techniques, and the fact that we're using them to galvanize terrorist groups. It's a marketing tool to use against our country, and that puts us at risk. And also, it's just not who we are. It's not who we are as a country. But he also is quite cognizant of the fact that we have immense challenges ahead. And we don't want to get distracted by looking back. We need to move forward. So if there are prosecutions to take place, that's up to the U.S. Attorney to deal with. But for the people who simply followed direction, followed the administration that was in place, and followed orders, he's saying let's not waste our time with those people. But let's move ahead and let's deal with the future. Let's deal with public education. Let's deal with health care, as you know, top priority of the president.
But Valerie, what about the people who are devising this strategy of enhanced interrogation techniques? That's one thing about people who are following orders, but what about people behind the scenes? There's a big outcry in this country that those people should be held accountable, and the president has said we want to put it behind us, and yet he's left it open for the U.S. Attorney to explore. So that's where I'm confused.
Well, the reason why, Katie, we are a nation of laws. And the reason why he has a U.S. attorney, why he has a chief lawyer for the United States, is it is Eric Holder's responsibility to enforce those laws. And that's the directive that the president has given him, enforce the laws. The president is talking about the broader policy of how we can move our country forward. And then he leaves it to the U.S. attorney to make the determination as to who should be prosecuted, if anybody at all.
But does he have a philosophical sort of bent when it comes to holding these people accountable, or does he really want to put it behind us?
Well, I just will remind you, he said let's move forward. But when you say a philosophical bent, I think what he says is he respects the law. He trusts Eric Holder to enforce the law. So that's Eric's responsibility. It's the president's responsibility really to lead our country forward in a new direction. He said all along throughout the campaign, and of course since he's been president, that what America wants is we want to deal with the economy. We want to deal with health care. We want to be able to send our kids to college. We want to reduce our dependence on foreign oil. These are the challenges that the American people talk about when they come home and they sit around the dinner table. And that's the positive force that this president is all about.
Let me ask you just a couple of quick lifestyle questions. We got a question from Nurse GD Body on Twitter. Okay, what can I say? And she asked, has the president quit smoking? Has he?
Yes. Oh, gosh, yes. And you know what? It's challenging. And I think as anybody who's had that kind of a habit knows, it's hugely challenging. And I'm proud to say I've actually never seen him smoke. But yeah, he's kicked that habit.
A lot of people are asking about Sasha and Malia, how they're doing in the spotlight. How are they getting along? It must be kind of a rude awakening to be photographed all the time and see your pictures in the paper and everything about your dog reported down to the very last detail of, you know, all his different habits. Are they adjusting?
The girls are very well adjusted. They're fortunate to have two parents who are protective of them, who are grounded, who understand the importance of values and character and building personal responsibility and all the lessons that we want our children to grow up having learned as kids. And they're very well adjusted. They're loving their life here in Washington. They've made great friends. And thank you for asking. I know you're a mom, and so we always worry about the kids, but they're doing just fine. Thanks.
And Michelle Obama, obviously, I mean, her approval ratings are through the roof. You actually had to kind of give her a thumbs up. She had you meet President Obama when they were first dating to kind of see if you approved. Why do you think she's so captivated the public?
Well, you know what? I always say that she's an extraordinary First Lady, but she's also Michelle. And I think part of her wonderful charm and the reason why so many people, not just in our country, but around the world, have fallen in love with her is because she's so grounded, she's so true, she has these core values and core decency that just comes across. To know the First Lady is to love Michelle.
All right. Well, Valerie Jarrett, it's nice to talk to you. Thanks so much for spending time with us on the little webcast that could. That's what we call it. Sponsored by Ford tonight. So that's impressive, huh?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much, Katie. Thanks for supporting our local economy.
All right. Thanks, Valerie.